guess my question is, the spirit of Elias that was part of the man Jesus of Nazareth, is that the same thing as the spirit of Christ?
Oh, no, it definitely would not be the Spirit of Christ for this reason, that when we say this, the word Christ means anointed. So when we say the Spirit of Christ, we're referring to a spirit that came from Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ was not glorified at that point.
Okay.
So the Spirit of Christ only is available since he was glorified. But the Spirit of Christ, it is all the Spirit of truth, for example. It comes from the Spirit of God, okay? And that the soul of Christ has been added to it for us, for our edification. So the core of what is the Spirit of Christ is the Spirit of truth. Now, let me give me an opportunity to clarify that again. The Spirit of truth is this, I believe the Spirit of Christ is the Spirit of truth. What was the third one that you named?
Life and then Elias.
That's a good question. So the Spirit of life is, I believe, the same thing as the Spirit of truth. Okay? The Spirit of Elias, I don't think would be the same thing. Okay? The Spirit of Elias would be the spirit that came from Elijah. The spirit of, how am I going to explain this? The Spirit of Elias was the spirit of a man that incarnated in Jesus of Nazareth as a personal incarnation. But the Spirit of truth is more of a universal spirit. Any one of us can have the Spirit of truth. There's a spirit that's a part of the individual, and then a spirit that comes from God that falls on us and joins with the spirit in the individual. So the Spirit of Elias was a spirit that was specifically in Jesus of Nazareth. The Spirit of truth is a universal spirit that's here today. The Spirit of truth is teaching. It's from the outside falling on us. The Spirit of Elias was inside of him, an incarnation.
Thank you.
So was the Spirit of Elias then a component that was required to bring forth the Spirit of life then, that Christ Jesus brought?
Are you talking about Jesus?
Well, like, if the Spirit of Elias was in Jesus,
Yes.
then it must have been some kind of a component that was necessary to then eventually produce the Spirit of life.
No, it's half true. The Spirit of life, I'm trying to not use the word Shekinah, but the Spirit of life comes from, excuse me, see now I have to start teaching with the Sephirot, okay? There are 10 grades, okay, of understanding the Spirit of God. There's only one God, but there are 10 grades of understanding the Spirit of God. The top 3 are called the upper triad, and the lower 7 are more or less found in people. Okay, it's hard. I don't know anyone today that has the top 3 spirits in them. Okay, so the Spirit of truth comes from the third of that upper triad, comes from the third degree of that upper triad. And it resides in that high spiritual level and descends to touch the spirit in man, to join with the spirit in man. So that's the Spirit of truth. Her personal name is it's a Hebrew word, the Shekinah. So the Spirit of truth abides in the high spiritual, in the God world. It abides in the God world, and it will pour out upon us. And it will reside in us by attaching itself to Christ Jesus in us. But when that happens, we will be very spiritually high. I don't know anyone that has it today. Okay? What was your question?
I was just asking about the Spirit of Elias. Like, was that...
And the Spirit of Elias was in the man. It was an incarnated spirit. It was given to him, was put into him when he was born.
Okay.
Was a spirit of the man, an incarnation. The Spirit of truth, or the Shekinah, as far as I know, is never actually born, is not born in the man. The Spirit of truth comes down when the person is prepared for it and joins with Christ Jesus, and then you have the whole Spirit flowing through you, which makes you a God.
But it wasn't dependent on the Spirit of Elias. That was kind of like...
No, the Spirit of truth is not dependent on the Spirit of Elias. If anything, the other is true. if you want to think of Jesus as at his highest spiritual potential, the spirit of ELIAS was dependent on the spirit of truth to bring into existence that high spiritual potential. To make Jesus a son of God, the spirit of truth, which is the Shekinah, had to come down and join with the spirit of ELIAS in him.
Okay,
Yeah, so you had it upside down.
yeah.